Hi, welcome to AP Daily Computer Science Principles, Topic 3.7, Nested Conditionals, Video 2. My name is Bradley Bearden, and I teach in Dadeville, Alabama, and I want to encourage you to invite a friend to take computer science. So, what will we learn in today's video? Well, we're going to continue to work with nested selection, but this time we're going to look at how to write nested conditional statements. And as a reminder, a nested conditional statement is a conditional statement nested inside of another conditional statement. Here's what that might look like in flowchart form, where one condition leads to checking a second condition. Here's what that might look like in pseudocode text. You'll notice the if else is nested inside the if else. And here's what that might look like in pseudocode, this block language. Notice again that you have if else's nested inside of an if else. So let's take a look at an example. What I want you to do is to read the problem and pause the video. And what I want you to think about is what in this table causes the salary to change? What conditions will cause the salary to change? So pause the video and see if you can figure that out. How do we do? So first, did you notice that if you weren't certified, your base salary of 35,000 never increased? So if you're going to increase your salary, you have to be certified. So whether or not they're certified comes into play. And then for those that were certified, how their pay increased depended on their experience. So the other condition that mattered was if they were experienced or not. So here's what this might look like in a flow chart, where you ask, is the worker certified? And if the answer is no, they're making 35,000. If the answer is yes, you still need to check the other condition, which is their amount of experience. So depending on the answers to that, if they're true or false, the salary would be either 45,000 or 50,000. So we're going to try to take this and put it in pseudocode format. But remember that the table will stay here for you to look at, but the flowchart will go away. Remember that whether or not they're certified is one important condition, and whether or not they're experienced is the other important condition. So here you have some pseudocode already given to you as starter, and it just initializes or excuse me, it takes in the value of whether or not they're certified and the year's experience. So you should notice that is certified is a Boolean variable that evaluates to either true or false, and year's experience is not a Boolean variable, but it will contain that value of how many years experience they have. So the first question that we really need to ask is, and also right before I go, I do want to point this out, that the salary of 35,000 is already initialized, that base salary. So the first question is, are they certified or not? And you'll notice that I don't have an if else loop here, because if they're not certified and that value is false, I won't even evaluate what's in that if, but their salary of 35,000 won't change. So for my main condition, I don't need an if else. I only need an if, because if they're certified, then something will happen. If not, the salary will stay as it already is. But the next question was, how many years experience do they have? So if they have less than 10 years experience, we want to make sure, if you look in the chart, that they only make 45,000. So if we add 10,000 to the salary we already have, that will give them 45,000. Now, if the year's experience is actually not less than 10, if it's 10 or more, then this will evaluate to false and we'll go down to the else. And if we increase the salary by 15,000, now we match what's in the table. So with that example, let's see if we can practice and see if we can, let's take a look. So I want you to take a minute again and I want you to pause the video and I want you to read this example. And I want you, in the programming language of your choice, to create an algorithm that uses nested conditionals to display the correct statement depending on whatever grade they made on the quiz. So pause the video and go try that in your programming language and see if you can make it display the correct thing. How do we do? Let's look at what this might look like in pseudocode. So I've given you a little starter pseudocode here to kind of go ahead and get that variable of the grade initialized. So we'll know what the grade is. And if you look at, I put this at the bottom to help you remember that if you made a 90 or better, she tells you, awesome grade, you do not need to make up the quiz. So that's the first thing, is if they make a 90 or better. Now this time we are going to use an if else, because if they don't make a 90 or better, something else will happen. So the next thing we need to look at is what happens if they make a 70 or better, but still less than a 90. Well, you would think that maybe the condition you should put would be greater than or equal to 70 and less than or equal to 90, or less than 90. But notice that this is going to the else. So we already know that the grade is going to be less than 90. So we don't need to include that again. So all we need to ask is, what happens if the grade is greater than or equal to 70? So the last part of that else is, again, what happens if you make less than a 70? But there's no need to put a condition here, because if both the other conditions were false, we're only going to have that else part. So this is what it would look like in pseudocode. And you might want to go back if you weren't successful and try to put it in your programming language again and see if you can get it to work out correctly. So what should we take away? Again, with nested conditionals, you may be asked to write code or select code that will make a nested conditional do what you're being asked to do. And remember that a nested conditional is a conditional nested inside of another conditional. Thank you.